Welcome to the K plus J Living Podcast,
where we talk about designing a meaningful home, better health, and more happiness.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 3 of the K plus J Living Podcast. I am Casey, the K part of the K plus J, and I'm with my wonderful wife, Jennifer. And in this week's episode, what are we going to talk about, Jennifer?
We are talking about embracing the season of life that you are in.
What season of life are we in?
We're in the awesome, we have a house full of teenagers, season. We're in that season of life.
Yes. I like how you use the word awesome to describe a house full of teenagers. Okay. No, it is awesome. It's great. We love our kids. But talking about seasons of life, you know, our kids haven't always been teenagers. They were babies at one point in time, and then they were toddlers, and then they were in elementary school, and they kept growing, and seasons of life changed. And, you know, I think a lot of times when it comes to embracing your season of life, a lot of times what we do, and I did this, and I think Jennifer did too, is when we get to this point, when we get to this point in our life, or when our kids are a little bit older, and over the years, we've learned that you just gain so much more when you embrace the season that you're in. And what does that mean?
Well, this last weekend, we watched our friend's little girl. She's just turned 2. And it just made us realize, she was wonderful. She was so well behaved. We had a wonderful time with her.
Much better than I think our kids ever behaved at that age.
They weren't not very nice when they were 2. Actually, 2 is one of my favorite ages. I love it. They grow so much and they're talking so much. It's just a fun time. They're just their little personalities are coming out. But anyway, she was wonderful.
In fact, what I'm going to do at the end of this podcast, I have this great audio clip of Rachel when she was right around that age.
Yeah, she reminded me of her.
I'm gonna throw that clip in at the very end of this podcast. You can hear Rachel, who is now 19 and almost 19 and a freshman in college. But I love listening to that because it just
to us, it's just interesting when your kids are teenagers because, you know, when they're babies like that, you can't even fathom having teenagers. Like, that just seems a million years away, and you can't even really picture what this little baby, how can that be? And now, you know, when they're a teenager, you look at them and you're like, but you're my little baby, because you see this whole person, and it's just interesting because you remember those things, but they don't remember those things. So, you see them as this complete baby to teenager, and they just have bits and pieces of memories. It's just kind of interesting from a parent's perspective of watching them grow over 18 years.
So wonderful. Just the other day in my Time Hop, if you're familiar with that app, my Time Hop popped up, and it showed a picture of our 3 kids, and they were super little, and standing out in our front yard in front of the ice cream truck, waiting to get ice cream. And it was just the cutest little picture. Reminded me of that season of life. But if you walked from the ice cream truck out front into our home, what would our home have looked like at that season of life? Well,
you know, we eventually had a rule. We lived in a very small house when our kids were little. We actually only had a 2-bedroom house. And so all 3 kids shared a room. The nice thing about that room is it did have a sunroom off of it, but it was kind of seasonal. It wasn't a great room. It had,
It was a 4-season room.
But it was cold. It had 13 old windows in it.
At the time, we hadn't replaced the windows at the time. They're all replaced now, but
we replaced it and then moved.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that did help a little bit with space. But so one rule that we had to do is we just made a rule of no kids' toys downstairs. I had 1 basket, and everything else had to stay upstairs.
And what the upstairs looked like at this season of our life?
Hurricane.
It was a total hurricane.
Every day I'm like, when did this hurricane hit? I don't remember there being a storm in our house.
It was Hurricane Ellie or Hurricane Carter or Hurricane Rachel or Hurricane Cup Kids. But they were all jammed into one room in that season of life. So all their toys were in there, along with little chunks of fish crackers and all kinds of stuff. I'm pretty sure it was
when you would go to clean out their toy bins, it would be like so nasty.
Like probably a hazmat suit. We just didn't know what was underneath it. It was very disgusting. But it was a wonderful season of life. But we're telling you this because it
gets better. And we have friends.
It gets better from a cleanly standpoint.
Is cleanly a word?
Yeah, it's a word. Yeah. This is a word?
It sounds so weird.
I don't know.
Sorry, go on.
Cleanly. It's not a word you use very often.
No. You like to clean better than me.
So, I just threw my wife under the bus. So, from a cleanly standpoint, yes, it is a word. Or maybe cleanliness. I don't know. Now you have me second guessing myself. But, yes, it does get better from that standpoint, but also you can never get back those times when your kids are little and the house is a mess because you can't keep up. Maybe you're a stay-at-home dad or a stay-at-home mom or you're two working parents and you're both out doing your thing, your kids are in daycare. At the end of the day, you're just exhausted and you see the messy room and you're like, it stresses you out. But we want to encourage you in this episode to embrace.
The kids are never going to remember that you didn't do the dishes every day or that you had to scramble to get laundry put together. They're not going to remember that. They're going to remember that you sat down and you read them 6 books in a row or the same book over and over. They're going to remember that. They're going to remember, going for a walk, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But, it's one of those things. We got married young, and so we had kids young. And when people come over to our house, recently we had friends that came over for the first time, and our youngest is the same age as their oldest. And at first she was just like, oh man, you guys have it all together. Everything is so clean and I can't even imagine. And she was, I think, probably kind of feeling bad about herself. But I'm like, oh my gosh, I wish that you had met me 10 years ago when I was living in the middle of the hurricane and just trying to, keep up the house. Like, it was just impossible. And so now, all of a sudden a day comes when you're like, okay, kids, good night. And they just go up to bed. And it's amazing. Yeah. And you don't have to wrestle them around like an alligator. And,
you know, and like you're talking about sitting down and reading the books and stuff. It was funny this weekend of watching our friend's little 2-year-old girl is some of the books that Jennifer brought up. One of them was called The Giving Tree. And it is by far, I don't think I've ever read that book to my kids without crying. As
that
they were
one,
growing
and
up.
What's the other one? I Always Love You. What is it?
Love You Always Forever?
No.
Something.
You'll Always Be My Baby. What is that one?
I don't know. The only one I ever remember is...
No, it's the one where the...
Possum Come A-Knockin'.
No, Rachel hates that one.
This
is the one
real
where...
quick, this is not important about her body, but there's this book called Possum Come A-Knockin' that we used to read to Rachel.
Creeped her out.
But
she always wanted to read it.
Yeah, but imagine a possum. They're not the cleanly. They're not very cleanly, and if they came knocking at your door, that's kind of gross.
No, but what's the one where it's the mom and she goes in to check on him, and then she gets older and he comes. Yeah,
I don't remember. If you remember, you should message us.
I
do cry. Yeah,
it's got the picture of the kid with the toilet paper on the cover.
Yeah.
Anyways, those are the things that our kids still remember and talk about their favorite story and that kind of thing. They don't talk about, remember when, we never had clean dishes, which, that's not entirely true, but it might have been.
Well,
we had a dishwasher at that house, though.
We did. The house we're in now, we're not. Well, we do. It's just a human being.
You are the dishwasher. But you should embrace that. And so when our friend came over, it was just like, no, I promise, it gets better. Like, your house is going to be put together. But there are so many nights when we would love to go back and snuggle our babies again, And so you don't get that time back. And so don't worry about it if everything's not put together perfectly. It'll get there. And, there was a time when we couldn't have pretty things down low. Everything was up high, Right. Oh my gosh. Carter, when he was 2,
a brand new carpet.
He was the worst. He ruined, when we were pregnant with him, we got a living room. I decided, okay, the girls learn to crawl on hardwood floors and they always, scoot backwards and that kind of thing. I want carpet for this baby. And so we got brand new carpet when I was pregnant, and we got a couch and a love seat. And by the time he was 2, he had completely trashed the carpet and the furniture with Sharpies and nail polish. It was
Yeah, we had
Unbelievable.
carpet down our stairs, and I remember him. He had it on his stomach, all
everywhere.
his face. It was nail polished, and dumped it down the.
And you wonder, like, okay, where are the parents? I don't blinking.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
Yeah,
seriously,
it was, like,
you
so
turn around.
fast.
He was so fast.
Yeah.
And we would hear him. We'd be laying in bed in the morning, and the whole house had hardwood floors except for the living room, of course. And we'd hear our dining room chairs scraping across the room, and we would know that he was climbing up to get into, we had, like, a really big windowsill in that room where all my pretties were. And so he would be scraping that chair across, and the only safe place in the house was on top of the refrigerator.
Yeah.
That was the only thing he couldn't reach and climb onto. He was... a monkey. I'm
sure you guys have stories like that too. And, so we just want to encourage you in this moment. Then we're going to talk a little bit about, this kind of like home health and happiness we've been talking about here. But when it comes to your home, take a deep breath. It's okay. Okay? Because it's just like I said in last week's episode, you have one life to embrace and enjoy those times. I'm not saying you just let things go and don't keep things picked up, but I remember I used to just get so amped about getting things clean and getting things. I mean, I like a clean house. Trust me.
Casey cares way more about that than me.
Yeah, but I still to this day I love what helps me to relax is to have my house picked up and clean, and I actually enjoy cleaning. But at the time when our kids were young, I just wasn't mature enough, haven't been a dad long enough to really understand that my expectations were way too high. And there's I played on the floor with my kids, took them outside, spent a lot of great time, great quality time. But there are some things that I would change. So part of this podcast is to say, hey, slow down and, spend even more time doing the things that really matter in the long run.
And one of my favorite quotes, and something that I would just some days tell myself 500 times a day is, the days are long, but the years are short. And that is so true.
Good one.
That is
wow. Good quote.
You love a good quote.
I love a good quote. That came out of nowhere. It's like left field. I love it.
I used to tell myself that a lot.
Yeah, I love that. So when it comes to your home, relax, okay? And so when we're moving to the health part of this, when you have young kids, the best thing you can do is figure out quick meals to make. And when it comes to quick, healthy meals, it took us a long time to figure this out because when our kids were little, we hadn't been on our health journey as long as
I hated to cook. That was the main problem.
Well,
I still do, but yeah. I really hated it then.
But
your kids melt down. So if you've been around kids for like a day, then you know that between like 3 and 5, they are losing it. That's that transition time between school and bedtime or school and dinner time or daycare, whatever.
Yeah. And
they are losing it. They're starving.
A good thing that we learned, I think, too late in the game, I think more moms and dads are on top of this now than I think we were at the time, is to have like a snack pack or a snack bag in your vehicle or in your car where you just have something that you can... But the key to this is healthy things. What are the healthy things that you can give your kids?
Well, we had a snack drawer when they were little, but it was pretty carb heavy, and I don't know. They were just like ravished and rummaging through drawers.
Right.
But I did hear recently someone talk about how they do kind of a first dinner when their kids come home, and they like while they're doing homework and stuff, they set out like a platter of veggies and dip or
like
hummus.
Taco Bell's fourth meal.
Yes, just like that. Only it's like hummus and veggies and that sort of thing, and so. Anyway, I thought that was brilliant because they said then even if they're filling up on it, who cares? And then you can move on later for dinner and they can have, a protein and something like that. So anyway, I thought that was brilliant. But when it does come to making your dinners, do something really quick. Have a kind of a go-to. And, still even now, one of my favorite go-to meals is anything that can be cooked in one pan, especially now that we don't have a dishwasher. I love to just cook meals in one pan. So if you follow us on Pinterest, I have a lot of like skillet type meals. But those are going to be just quick, easy things that you can pull together for your family.
That is very true. I was just texting my son Carter. My son Carter
Speaking of teenagers,
he's over at a friend's house and he's wanting to stay longer, and so I was trying to text him
there for a minute.
I didn't hear what you said.
We eat skillet meals.
We eat skillet meals. Yes, we do. So, seasons of life. So what do you do when it's the season of life, and you're young, and you're married, or let's say you're not even young, and maybe you're having kids later on in life. Nothing wrong with that. And you're having your first kid, and you're just trying to keep the structure, keep the flow, keep your newborn, your toddler on their sleep schedule, and you're finding that there's no time to go on dates because you're working and you're trying to squeeze in that time. Here's one of the things that we did.
Yeah, and really this weekend, our kids were on a major sleep schedule when they were little.
What was that schedule?
Well, like our two, I didn't learn this with Rachel, but kids need more sleep, not less sleep. So our Ellie and Carter both napped. They took 2 naps a day up until they were about 3 or 4. It was amazing. And then they would sleep better at night when they were well rested. But because of that, it just made it hard for me to go anywhere and do anything. And when we had our little friend over this weekend, she goes to bed between 6:30 and 7. And so that doesn't leave you time. I mean, that's just hard. You just have to be home and you have an early dinner and kind of be ready to put them down. So anyway, one thing that we learned early on was we would put our kids to bed. They went to bed by 7 for years. I mean, up until junior high.
Until they got into junior high.
Yeah, and I know that sounds crazy, but we would send them to bed, and especially like in the summer, we would say, okay, it's light out. You can read a book in your bed until it's dark out. It's not like we expected them to go to sleep at 7.
Junior high was 8, and then high school it was 9.
Yeah, I mean, but that changes a
junior,
little. Well, yeah, I mean, they have homework and they're out doing stuff and that sort of thing. So it's not like we're strict on that. But
when they can go pick up our other kids, then they can stay up later.
As late as they want because they're the taxi driver. It's amazing. Anyways, so we would send them to their room and they would have to have quiet time. And what that did was by at 7 o'clock, we had time for each other. And, I stayed home with our kids, so I was with them all day. And I know that that's hard for moms that are working all day to say, oh my gosh, I don't want my kids to go to bed at 7. I only see them for a few hours. I totally get that. For us, I was home all day with them, and so we would put them to bed at 7, and we would have what we called popcorn dates. We really didn't have the budget to go out once a week. I know the big thing that people tell you is make sure you have go out weekly for a date. We just didn't have the budget for that and didn't always have, I don't know, 3 kids is hard sometimes on grandma. So, and she was still working, full time, that sort of thing.
Yeah,
so,
and I think you need to do what works for you. That's what's kind of, I think with social media and us seeing so many videos and clips and quotes and all this, I love all that stuff, and all those things are great, and, we do a lot of those things with our company. But really, when it comes down to it, is you need to do you. Like, one of the things we're doing with this podcast is we're throwing out what worked for us, and these are things that work for us. And our hope in talking about home health and happiness each week with our podcast isn't for you to model what we're doing. It's hopefully to spark inside of you, hey, if I do this, or if I tweak this, or if I change this, I can have more time with my kids, more time with my spouse, more time for creativity, or more of that bonding time, whatever it is. We just want you to discover what adds the most value to your life and helps you to embrace the things that really matter.
Yeah, but that was something that made a big difference with us. And also that was before cell phones. I think now it's really easy just to sit on the couch and forget that I don't know, you know what I mean? We're both engrossed into whatever we're doing. And so I think it's so important to shut everything off and just look at each other and have that conversation. And so, we'd pop a bowl of popcorn. It's cheap. And we just would sit and talk. And I just think that that's so important for couples to keep that time together.
Yeah.
So there's our big...
Makes me want popcorn. Yeah.
I don't think I bought any this week.
No?
I have some pretzels.
Oh, pretzels are good. It doesn't have to be popcorn. Maybe you hate popcorn. It can be a pretzel date. Or like a jujubes.
Whitey's.
But
that requires you to go somewhere.
Right, so Whitey's, if you're listening from another part of the country or the world, good people that are from other parts of the world.
Someone from Japan.
I know. So people that, Australia, China, people that listen to other parts of the country or other parts of the globe, Whitey's, it seems like the most racist name in the world for an ice cream place, but
it's been here forever.
And it's kind of the staple that works for our area. Yeah, it's just kind of weird, but the ice cream is very, very good.
All right, so we need a question, but we kind of pre-recorded these, and so we're waiting for questions.
So
if
we
you
came
have
up
questions,
with one.
Oh, we did? I forgot.
Yeah, we came up with one that we've had from someone else.
Oh, what is it?
Which is, how do you keep your house so clean? And someone asked us, how do you keep your house so clean?
How do we keep our house so clean?
That actually has been asked to us while we had people over here at our house, and Jennifer said, I'm not going to tell you what my answer is, that she has the answer herself. So this is like, we're all learning this at the same time, folks.
My answer is, I don't care if the house is clean, but Casey does.
To a certain degree.
Not too much.
Right.
But Casey does, and so he cleans more than I clean. That's our secret.
Yeah. So here's a little thought. This is, again, embrace your season of life. But here's one of the things I do. Jennifer takes the kids to school. I pick up the kids from school. And then there's this margin in my schedule where I'm home and Jennifer's still coming home from work. It's when I usually do dishes, vacuum, pick up the house. Oh,
but this week, I forgot, we did start having our kids do something with us. So it dawned on me this week that I'm like, wait a minute, we have teenagers. This is getting ridiculous. Carter has liked to bake since he was 4 years old.
Yeah.
And he is pretty good at it now. Like, he bakes all the time. And I'm like, there is no reason with 2 teenagers in the house that they cannot help me cook supper. Like, why am I the only
13
one?
And 15.
Not that, I mean, Casey helps too. He actually is a better cook than I am. But
yeah, I like to cook.
Yeah, and so we do cook together sometimes. But I'm like, wait, what is this maid service where they just come down when supper's ready? This is ridiculous. So anyway, so this last week, you would have thought the world was ending, but we did have them cook dinner with us. And once it was over, they each took a turn and threw a big fit. And then when it was done, they were so proud of themselves.
They're very proud.
Yeah, and so it's something that we're going to keep working on and have them a couple times a week help me cook dinner or cook it themselves. And in fact, one of the nights, Ellie did cook it by herself.
Yeah,
and I was right there
great.
And I helped walk her
she
through
did a
questions.
Phenomenal job.
Yeah.
Carter did a great job. Obviously, Rachel is off at college, but she had
she's
problem
done it.
doing
Yeah,
that.
she's done it before for us. So
I would love that.
Yeah. So anyway, so there's my tip. If you have older kids, make them cook dinner with you.
Yeah. And one last thing I want to throw in about cleaning your house is that you may have heard that, I love to clean. I love to do the dishes. I like to cook. I love all those things. So don't let the stigmas affect your relationship or affect your marriage. There's so many things where, Jennifer, I hate doing laundry. Jennifer does all the laundry. So there's just these things where you embrace what your strengths are and embrace what you learn to do. And if you're waiting for your spouse to do something that you love to do, that's going to cause a lot of strife and turmoil in your relationship. And when you embrace what you're gifted at, what you're great at, that just makes things so much better because you're functioning in your strengths and being able to really feed off of one another.
I do love laundry.
Yeah, she loves to do that. So
that's about it, though.
But you do such a good job.
I do. Yeah, I'm a great laundryman.
So, hey, we're going to close out this week's podcast, and here's what we want to throw out to you. If you have a question about designing a meaningful home, better health, or more happiness, we want you to message us on our Facebook page, which is at KJ Living Company, where you can just look up KJ Living Company on Facebook and find us and like our page and message us. We would love to hear your thoughts and your questions on designing a meaningful home, better health, and more happiness. Also, we hope our new website is going to be up here soon. By the time you listen to this podcast, it's kjliving.company that you can find all about our construction company and our coaching for health and also marriage and life coaching. We'd love for you to leave a review on iTunes, because what that does, if you hop on iTunes and give a rating, it helps to go up in the ratings, which more people notice it, which means we can make even more of an impact in people's lives and add value to them to help them design a meaningful home, better health, and more happiness. So follow us on all the social media sites. You can find us on there. Also, you can give us a call if you would like to contact us about our company at 309-481-3131. And we'll see you next week.
See ya.
So, hey, everybody, I told you that I would give you this little audio clip of my daughter, Rachel. So, here it is.
What do you want?
I want
Cereal?
yellow.
Cereal?
Yellow. Oh,
I'll get you some cereal. Jay's got to finish making his toast.